Hello and welcome. I am Matt Roddy, and this is the Greater Prescott podcast, where we talk about, you guessed it, all things Greater Prescott. Today, we are at Lessons by Lexe with Lexe. Lexe, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
I even went over the introduction in my head earlier, and I'm like, how many times am I going to say Lexe? Like, at least 2 or 3. So,
yeah.
What is your last name offhand?
Neikamp.
Lexe Niekamp.
Yeah.
Okay. That rings a bell. I've seen it around.
Yeah.
So we're at your studio.
Yes.
And because as soon as I walked in, I realized, what is this? Mm-hmm. What is all the lion-themed stuff around? Because as soon as I walked in, guys, it was lions everywhere.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
We are Lessons by Lexe Dance Studio, and one of the biggest things about us is our motto is wild and untamed by nature. When I took dance as a young child in California, I was on a competitive team. And one of the biggest things is my dance teacher always told me to be myself. Okay. And self-expression is huge within dance, I feel. So being able to remind all of our students that they are full of courage, like lions, and that it's okay to be yourself, because lions don't have to answer to anyone. If you notice that, when they're out and you watch any documentary, even at zoos, you know who rules. So I think that that's one of the biggest things, is just being able to be yourself, and by nature. So that's one of the biggest things. I'm also a Leo. Okay. So my birthday is August 1st. So lions have always had a huge impact on my life, as well as elephants too, just because of the peacefulness.
Yes, I love it. That is a great way to get started.
Yeah.
I think, and one of the reasons I just love this platform is it really gives an opportunity for your purpose, your passion to come out. And I mean, boom, we just started right off the bat. You know, people get a sense of where you've come from and what you're all about. And that's totally going to come out more as you talk about the studio.
Yes.
Thank you again for your time. This is awesome.
Thank you.
Let's dive right in. Where were you born and raised? I think I already know a little bit about what you did as a kid, but let's just start rolling out, because it's going to just form the story of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, of course. So I was born and raised in San Jose, California, and we moved to Prescott, Arizona when I was 10 years old. And I've taken dance since I was 3 years old.
Wow.
And one of the biggest things that I did in California in dance was I TA'd, so I was a teacher assistant. Okay. And that's a huge part of my studio now, is teacher assistants, which we can talk about later. Yeah. But I got to help other kids self-express, and I think that had a huge impact on like the dancer that I am today and the teacher that I am today. Yeah. And my dance teacher always said, all I ask is that you give back. Okay. And that was one of the biggest things for me, because I was a dancer on scholarship, and back then, being on scholarship wasn't something necessarily that people talked about or wanted to talk about. It was kind of one of those things that you almost felt embarrassed to be on it.
Gotcha.
And
From that angle.
Yeah, and so my mom was a single mother, and it was really hard being in dance. Like, dance is really expensive, and so that's another thing where even with our studio, like, we know our worth, but that's kind of where I originated the studio of like, well, how can I help the community and still be able to get everyone dancing and self-expressing without like literally having to sell their arms and legs just because they're trying to afford a costume for a recital. So yeah, I'm originally from San Jose, California though. And
was it your mom who introduced you to dance? Family members? Okay.
Yeah, so my mom used to dance and my nana used to dance. Okay. So it's just been a thing for our family.
Absolutely.
I did not like ballet that much at first, just because it was very, you have to be very patient. And I was a student that just wanted to make sounds with my feet and tap dance and everything, which that's why tap is still my favorite style to this day. But I found a new love for ballet too. So.
No kidding. So 3 years old. Wow.
Yeah, and it was super fun.
Does your mom have photos of that?
Yes.
Those are gotta be adorable.
Yeah, they are. They're so stinking cute. Yeah, and the dance costumes back then were so cool too, because like they were handmade, and so it was still one of those things where like dance was a community, and it still needs to be. And I think that that's one of the biggest things is that although you start to compete, I think that even in competitive dance, you should still know that you're self-expressing, even though you have choreography and quotas to get to.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you do anything else when you were a kid?
I also played soccer.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was on a competitive team for soccer too. A lot of competitive, and I also was in the arts. So I did musicals too.
Okay.
And that was really fun. I think one of the biggest things that the arts just in general has helped me with is confidence and finding like passions within, because I think even if you're not necessarily the best singer, the best dancer on that stage, or the best artist, the best set painter, any of that, you still find your own passion within.
Yes.
And I think like a lot of my friends, even like when I did dance and when I did musical theater and things like that, some of my friends found that they like being backstage more.
Of course.
And that's okay. Like, but that's their passion.
Yep.
And mine was being more on stage. And so I think just finding the confidence in your own passions through the arts was huge for me.
Yeah. I think you're already hitting on something really important in that when kids are young, it is really good for them to experience different things so that they can decide, I'd rather be backstage or I'd rather be front of stage, right? Whatever they choose, but they don't know until they experience that. And so I've always just been, because now that I have children, it's like, how do we get them experiences so that they can start to figure out some things instead of me just pigeonholing that you need to do this or that.
Right.
No, let's try a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And what do you enjoy doing?
Yeah.
And even within the arts, you know, you did a lot of different things, and you were able to kind of filter all that down to, I think I really like this and this and this, or however it goes.
Yeah. And so that was a big thing for me, was even playing soccer while still dancing and acting and singing. It was so great to just be able to run on the field and like have an outlet that's different. Yeah. Like I think you should have a lot of avenues and outlets that are different for you, so that as a child, you're constantly being like stimulated to do different things and test different movements of your body and see what kind of works for you.
Totally. Could not agree more.
Yeah.
It's hard as a parent to kind of offer all those things to your kids. Like, but yes, definitely much needed.
Yeah.
So did you travel doing soccer?
Yes.
Okay. Because I also did growing up as well. Like I was super competitive soccer.
How cool. Yeah. When I got to Arizona, I was on a team called Tivoli.
Okay.
And we were competitive, and we would travel to just like close by, like obviously just to like Tucson and then back, and sometimes Nevada. Yep. And then also California. Those were like, and they were so fun. Like I feel like that's something that like I definitely want to instill and create. Just within my studio too, like when we compete, because we recently started competing.
Awesome.
Like the second I opened my studio, I said, well, competition is not a thing here. That's not something that we're about. So it took me a while to launch an elite team, and ever since I did, it's been really awesome for the kids to be able to try out and push themselves a little bit more.
Absolutely.
But still in a way where it's a healthy competition way.
Yes, and the experiences that come along with it, like those traveling opportunities, those are some of my best memories as a kid.
I agree.
It wasn't the game. I have no idea what happened during the game.
Yeah.
But I definitely know like where we went to dinner after, just hanging out. Like it's those opportunities that is really important for kids. And you don't have to be on a traveling team to get some of those experiences. It just so happens.
Very true.
Those are great experiences.
Yeah.
So how long did you play soccer?
I played soccer, I think I started when I was 6.
Okay.
And I also started gymnastics at that time too. So I did a little bit of gymnastics. It just wasn't for me. Yeah. I was pushed a little harder in gymnastics, and it was that vibe of I couldn't be myself. And so that was something where I fought back with a lot. But gymnastics and soccer kind of started at the same time, 6, but I stuck with soccer all the way through high school. I did volleyball too in middle school and high school, but all the way through high school. Yeah. And then
Man.
Yeah. As soon as I open up my studio,
You're probably as busy as any other.
I am.
like student athlete.
Yeah,
in
I am.
Elementary, junior, and high school.
Yeah, I was. I really was. I always had something to go to.
Oh, I bet.
Like it was
literally.
either a dance class or like I'd get out of school, do my homework in the car,
Yeah.
get to dance, go change, do the dance classes. Like I was always in more than one, of course, because you know, once you get the dance bug, you can't really just stay in one class and be like, okay. Like you always want to explore other styles, and I think that's what's so cool about dance is there's so many styles to explore.
Yeah. That's actually a really nice thing about dance, because I think about soccer. Yes, there's other sports, but it maybe not as easy to pick up another sport
It's true.
versus a dance where not like you're an expert at all the different types, but maybe it's just a little easier to dabble
It
and
is.
kind of try them out.
Yeah, no, 100%. I definitely feel that because even in soccer, like you can do different positions.
Yes.
Like you could be a midfield, a forward. Goalie was my main
Really?
position. And so that was one of the things where I did notice a lot more, and so did my mom, was that I'm comfortable diving around and throwing my body
That's
around.
what it takes.
And that's one of those things where that's kind of where dance came into play too.
Yep.
So I think that it all kind of connects at
That
like
makes
the end of
perfect
it.
sense. Like when you
Yeah.
see a goalie diving, like they're almost acrobatic.
Yeah,
in a sense.
exactly.
Like, how did they just do that?
Yeah.
But so that would translate well from the dance.
Yeah.
And back and forth.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
So growing up, what type of dance did you do?
So
What type of dance didn't you do?
Yeah,
That's probably
I guess,
like-
yeah, let's start there. Yeah, I did a lot of styles. And I did a lot of styles because I was pushed to understand that dance is not just ballet. Dance is not just tap. Dance is not just, so like when you say you're going to dance class, like there's a lot of styles that are taught, and there's a lot of things that can be taught within dance class that has nothing to do with dance, just your self-confidence. But I did ballet, tap, hip hop, jazz, and Irish.
Okay.
And Irish dancing was the one that pushed me the hardest.
How come?
It was just different. It wasn't something I expected. And I think that's one of the biggest things is when you walk into a dance studio, sometimes you're expecting certain styles of dance. And you're like, well, but what's Irish? And so I was like really it was nerve-wracking. Like walking into that and like hearing the music and stuff, you're like, what is this all about?
You had come so far, you had probably been pretty good at what you had been doing, and all of a sudden
100%.
it's a new type of dance, and you're like, what do I do?
Yeah, and it was hard because going from like hip hop to Irish, like that's a whole nother level of like focus and control. And I think that that's what one of the biggest like growths for me, like in my younger days was that you can have multiple outlets, be studying multiple styles, but being able to control when you're in the moment and being able to be in that moment of what class you're in is huge. And I think that that's something that dancers can train in all different styles, but the second you can actually disconnect and control how you're feeling about each style is huge.
That's huge. That brings to mind, I started playing golf when I was in high school, and I think your analogy could cross over to golf a little bit in that every golf course is different, every shot is different, and it requires you to, it's the same swing, kind of.
Right.
And so it's just a really, really good opportunity for you, the dancer, or the golfer, or whoever it is, to just learn. And a lot of it just comes from repetition and just doing a lot of different things over and over and over and over, so that you can step into an Irish dance and be competent, and then go back to the hip hop dance and be competent.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a different skill and a different mindset.
Yeah, and every single performance is different, and I think that's what's so amazing. Like
that is amazing.
That's why we do end of the year recitals, and I think that's why it's always like a favorite of everyone's, is because both nights are the same recital, but they're not going to be the same recital. And so I think that that's huge because there's a little bit of different expressions put into each recital. So I think that that's something that's big to me, is that once you get up on that stage, like that's all you. Like your teacher has given you everything, all the tools you need, but it's your time to fly, your time to shine. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I told you that my wife Emily does music lessons, and recitals are exactly what you just said. Like it's everyone's favorite, and it's that opportunity when, all right, you push the kid up there, and they're all alone, and now it's their opportunity, and just what a great experience that is.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So where'd you go to? You would have gone junior high school here. Where did you go to school?
Yeah, so in middle school, I went to Sacred Heart.
Okay.
And then in high school, I went to Tri-City College Prep.
Okay.
And then I went to NAU, Yavapai, here in Prescott Valley.
Gotcha.
For college.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many years were you in college?
So I was in college for 3 years.
Okay.
I got my Bachelor of Science in Applied Human Behavior.
Okay.
So social studies. And then I got certificates in entrepreneurship.
Wait, let's back up. Applied
Human Behavior.
And then you said social studies?
Those are social studies,
social studies.
So like the studies of human behavior.
Okay.
And kind of just getting involved with more of like the fact of you're going to have your opinions, everyone else is going to have their opinions, and you need to understand and respect the level of everyone else's opinions. I think that was one of the biggest things that I did learn from studying that and getting that degree, was that you can always say like you're right and someone else is wrong, but like at the end of the day, what is that? What's your why? Like what does that do for you?
Right.
Like you can feel like you are the most like smartest person in the world and that you know everything, but like being able to hear someone else out and understand kind of where they're coming from was exactly like what I got to learn. And so that helped me with owning a business, because that was the biggest thing for me, was being able to put yourself out there, know your target audience, and be okay with it.
Yep.
And for everyone else to be okay with it too, and be able to explain yourself. So I also got my certificate in entrepreneurship too. And then
where from? What's that involved? Because that's really interesting to me.
So that was from NAU Yavapai.
Okay.
So what NAU Yavapai is, it's another campus for Northern Arizona University.
Okay.
So
here
that
in
is
town?
It's here in Prescott Valley. So it's right across from the Prescott Valley Library.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the building. The reason why it's called NAU Yavapai is because Yavapai teachers will teach the NAU courses.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's some online courses too where you take with actually like the Northern Arizona professors.
Totally.
And so that I got a certificate in entrepreneurship. And that certificate was one of my hardest certificates to learn from, I think. I think that was one of the biggest ones, because I have a couple more certificates from them too. And it was one that pushed me because I already had a business.
Gotcha.
And so I did open my business at 19 years old, and I was in college at the time and working full-time at Planet Fitness as a manager.
Okay.
And it's hard when you write an essay about the business that's already put into play, and a professor tells you like you're doing this all wrong because that's not what we read in the book. And so like for me, I was like, well, I just opened this business and I don't know what how in the world am I supposed to change everything when I just opened it, and I'm supposed to stay consistent to keep the model going, and these are my beliefs. So why is that? How is that it all got back to the opinions of the applied human behavior that kind of tied into that? And it was kind of like, well, okay. So I had to just take a deep breath really with those. And I had amazing professors in the entrepreneurship program that pushed me to just think outside the box. And I think that that's one of the biggest things is, what does your business offer that the community needs right now? And not even what does your business offer that someone else's doesn't. It's not about the other businesses in the community. It's about what the community needs from your business. And so I think that was one of the biggest things that stuck with me, was that you can compare your business up and down, back and forth to anyone and everyone, but at the end of the day, that's not going to help you grow. It's just going to confuse you, frustrate you, and possibly even cause your business to close because you're so focused on something else. So I think that was huge for me, was just learning that.
Largely kind of how does this work in the community?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I also got a certificate in service industry management. And I did that one because I wanted to know the odds and ends of a different type of business.
Yeah.
Like, I think that you should know that. Even if you are a dance studio, you should still know how a restaurant may operate, or how a different type of business than yours will operate, because at the end of the day, we're all giving to our community. So you should all kind of complement each other in a sense.
This is interesting you bring it up. I listen to, it's a company called 2 p.m. The long and the short of it is they push deep generalism. Is this idea of how important, to your point, it is to know a lot of information, a very broad amount of information, fairly deep, as opposed to one thing really, really deep. And we still need those people, but for most of us who operate, let's just take you operate a business. It's really helpful to know a lot of different stuff pretty darn well, right? And it's to that idea, and especially as our world changes and the internet, and just 100%. We just so much change every single day that what's his name? Will Smith is his last name, but he's just deep generalism, and it's to your point. And that's something I've been trying to work on more, is like how it's important to kind of a little bit about how a restaurant operates, because you're most likely going to take a nugget and be able to apply it to your business. Like you'd be so naive to think that you couldn't learn something.
I agree. I agree 100%. I think that, like, we're all in this together is like such a big
no one
thing.
Even does it perfect.
Exactly. Like, even our corporate stores, I hate to say that, but even our corporate stores, they need us just as much as we need them.
Oh my gosh.
So I think that's one of the biggest things, is everyone separates businesses, but when we're all in the same community, like, people still drop off their kids to dance and then have to go to Walmart to go shopping during that. And so that's just one of those things where even just the littlest thing like that is like, we're all working together.
We are all together. So we kind of glanced over it. At the age of 19, you opened your business. Was it, tell us about kind of the impetus of that. What was the name of it? And
so this is kind of a funny story. So
let's hear it.
I have always wanted to open up a dance studio since high school. Like, it started in high school, where I was like, okay, I think this could be something really cool. I, of course, did not know how to do it at all. Of course, like,
most people don't.
And I honestly don't think you do ever. Like, you never really know how to operate a business until you're fully in it and you're just going with it. But in high school, it all started, and one of the biggest things was that I found dance as a passion, and I read a lot of articles. I listened to a lot of podcasts. I listened to a lot of YouTube videos just about how people who have made their passions their jobs have not had good lives out of it, or have not had
as well as they wanted.
And so, like, there was a lot of, like, negative, like, just feedback and reviews that I was just reading. And of course there was positives too. But of course it was heavier tipped on the negative side, just because even fresh out of high school and you're saying you want to open a business, everyone's like, really? Okay, kid.
Oh, of course.
Like, go to college. And so that was one of the biggest things for me, was like, I was like, no, like, this is something I want to do. Like, I will do this. Like, I don't, like, say what you want, but I will, this will be something I do. And so it got to that point where I started working at Planet Fitness, and I was a manager, and I was making pretty good money, so I started saving. And started looking at spaces in Prescott Valley, everywhere. And I was like, okay, like, I thought my savings was good, and it's not that good. And so it got to that point where I was like, okay, well, I guess it's just not for me. And I was going to college full time, so I was like, this is really, how would I even fit this into my time schedule? And I was actually sitting in the mall the day that I decided, like, I'm going to put this on the back burner for a while. And mall management at the time was actually walking by, and something in me told me to get up and say, do you guys have spaces I can just look at? And that was the day. I
thought you put it on the back burner.
Like, yeah. And so that was one of the biggest things that was scary for me, because like that was the day that I chose to put it on the back burner, but that was also the day that the opportunity arose.
Yep.
And so I think that being able to be open to understanding that opportunities are going to fall into your lap, they're going to come to you, and you have that decision to make that jump right there.
Yep.
Or not. And so I looked at spaces for a good 2 weeks, and then I made my decision.
Wow.
Like I walked into a space and I was like, nope, this does not feel like anything. I feel very claustrophobic. And of course I was looking at the smaller spaces because I could not afford anything.
Where you were at.
And so then when I walked into our first space, which was 900 square feet, I felt like home. Like I was like, there is something about this space. I don't know what it is, but I can do it. I can do this. And so within a month we opened, and we opened with summer camps, and the summer camps were a hit.
I was going to say,
that was one of the biggest.
A really good idea.
Yeah, and it kind of just was one of those things where it was not planned. Like I had a business plan, everything written, like of course to the T. By the books, because of course I was going to college, and I was like, this is my business plan, and this is like the financials and everything like that. And of course, like that doesn't work. I was like,
this is the real world.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you have to, every business is different. So then started saving up for a bigger space as soon as we started taking off. And it was pretty awesome to be able to take off so quickly. And the second that Rue 21 moved out of here, I was like, I want this space. I want a brand new space. I want a bigger space. And I was a little bit jumping the gun a little bit too much. And I just wanted that more.
Of course.
And I got a lot of no's before I got a yes for this space. Like that was one of the things of like, well, you're local and we want a corporate store here.
Of course.
Because how many windows are here?
Oh, absolutely.
How many, like how big the space
is prime real estate.
And this space alone has so much like foot traffic just because you park right in front of it. And so they were like, no, I think we want a corporate store in there. It's like, okay, that's understandable. I get that 100%. I ask again, the same exact space, everything, and I got a lot of no's before I finally got a yes. And they were like, you know what? We see you doing stuff for our community. We're gonna give you a shot. And so like the day that happened, we were so stoked. When I signed and got the keys for this space, we're now in a 5,369 square foot space. So like we can breathe.
No kidding.
Is one of the biggest things, and we can have more classes at the same time. We have 2 studios now within the big studio. We have 2 bathrooms. It's awesome. It's the little things, right? It really is. Like we have dressing rooms. Like we can have kids changing while kids are going to the bathroom, not just one bathroom where everyone has to wait to change for dance class. We're 10 minutes late to dance class because everyone had to change. So it's just been really nice. It's been a breath of fresh air for a lot of our students too, because we have a lot of OGs.
Right.
Like that's one of the biggest things is we have a lot of dancers that have stayed with us since the beginning, and it's been really cool to see their growth and development with the studio.
That's the best. Get them in early and develop them, and especially that relationship component.
100%.
So 2019 is when you had the first location.
2017, I believe.
Okay.
17.
Then when did you move into where we are right now?
About a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
January, February 2019.
I don't even know which. I don't even know which month. Yeah.
Okay.
It always pops up in my memories. That's how I remember. Like I love technology because of Facebook. It gives you all the memories. But no, I think this one was another summer camp situation. Like we started in this one during summer camps too, which was kind of cool. So like it was more June.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a great time to open, ironically enough.
Yeah, no, it really is.
Can, pack them in. The kids are off school and things like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
In less than 60 seconds, what's the name of the dance studio? What do you do here? What's your little pitch so I can put that up?
Yeah, so we are Lessons by Lexe Dance Studio. We are a dance studio that specializes in teaching many styles of dance for all ages. And we also one thing that's really cool about us is we accept all. So it doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are. Just the fact that you have a drive to dance is huge. We have special needs here. We have mommy and me classes here.
Okay.
So like we literally help teach crawling and walking, and like they use balance beams to get them stability. So we start really young. We actually, our very first year in business, we had classes where we had the parents wearing the babies and they were dancing with them. And now there's 2 of the babies who were in those classes still dance here, and they're now like 5 and 6.
Exactly.
And so it's so cool for them to at least just be around the music and be around the self-expression. And so, yeah, that's pretty much us. One of our biggest slogans is don't just dance with your feet, dance with your heart.
Okay.
And that's always just stuck with me. And so
What's that theme you talked about early on?
Yeah, just being yourself is huge here. And so we're just trying to create a safe outlet for anyone and everyone to be able to self-express. It's not about the perfect pointed toe. Like, of course, we want you to get to that point, but we're not going to, there's no point in yelling about it. There's no point in, because I've had teachers before where I've walked out of the class and I'm like, I need to cry because like I was told like this was not right. Everything I did was awful today. And like for me, that's so hard because that's crushing a dream before it's even a dream.
Yep.
And so for me, like the yelling and all that stuff, I could never fathom that part of it. So when I opened the business, I knew what I didn't want to do.
Exactly.
And so that was a good learning experience for me, though,
Definitely.
because I feel like you get nowhere when you're yelling at someone to point their toe versus let's just fix your point. I don't care how many times I have to fix your point.
Right.
I'd rather have you in here fixing your point 40 times during your class versus me yelling at you to fix your point, and you're still upset
And
about
then,
the pointed toe, and
you
all you
lose
think
at that
about.
point.
Yeah, and that's another thing is we're here to encourage and inspire a next generation. So I think that's another thing is like we're here to send out good kids in our community. Like they still make, like we just made Valentine's for senior living homes. Like they still make Valentine's Day cards for the veterans too. Like there's things that we still make and have expectations for our elite teams, have expectations for just our regular dance classes of giving back to our community, because that's what helps us thrive. Like if we're not giving back to the community and we're not putting anything out into the community or performing for our community, anything like that, like at the end of the day, those are our biggest supporters. Those are the ones that get us to competitions. Those are the ones who donate. Those are the ones who encourage.
It's the best marketing that you could possibly do, but it doesn't look like the standard marketing. So kudos. Where did a lot of the community stuff come from? That entrepreneur class you took, or kind of where? Because that is something you're very passionate about. As people go to your social media page and they listen to you and hear you and watch you, community is a really big part. It just oozes from you, right? Where does that come from?
I honestly think it was how I was raised. Waking up each day knowing that you're blessed is one of the biggest things, that you got to wake up. And I've always been taught that, like, give back without the intent to receive. And so I think since doing that at a young age and being able to experience that at a young age, I think helped me to understand that no matter how much you give to your community and how much you're not wanting anything back, it brings people together.
It does.
Like, I think that that's one of the biggest, like, giving without wanting anything in return is huge for me, because at the end of the day, the return is everyone coming together. And so that's what creates the community. And so for me, that I think has just continued to grow within me just based on my personal experiences. Also being part of, like, Miss Yavapai County and like things like that with the Miss America organization, that's all about empowerment. And that's all about how you can give back to your community. They actually cut swimsuit the year that I started. And that was kind of my vibe of like, okay, this is my time. And I was always looking for things to do that was different to give back to my community, because I'm like, I have a dance studio.
Yeah.
We do certain things, and I want to see what else we can do, how else we can give back, or how else I can give back in certain ways. And so that's why I did run for Miss Yavapai County.
Okay.
And the first time I did not get it. And I think that that's one of the biggest things, is like understanding that even when you get a no, you should still try to work towards a social impact, towards something. Like that was one of the biggest things, is that just because I got a no the first year, I ran for Miss Parker, Arizona, and did place and get Miss Parker. And then I was top 10 on Miss Arizona stage last year.
Okay.
And so that was my very first year competing. Like I kid you not, I am no way, shape, or form a pageant girl. Like I am one of those people where everyone thinks pageant and they're like, oh, it's a beauty pageant. Like no, like Miss America is one of those organizations that is truly about who you are and what you give back to your community. And so that was why I hopped on that organization so fast. But yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things, is going back to your question about community and giving back, is that there's always ways and avenues to do it. And I think being able to provide everyone with the tools and resources, like when I go into guest speak in classrooms, I've done that as Miss Yavapai. I feel that everyone just needs the tools and just that little push. And so I feel like even if it's within your dance class, you should still, even while you're reaching for your toes, like, what did you guys do today for the community? Or what did you learn in school? Like asking outside questions about not just what you're doing in dance class, I think is huge, and that's what creates that community involvement with everyone.
Yeah. Well, it really just broadens your impact.
It's true.
And this is not in a, hey, you're doing a great job, Lexi.
Right.
It's like, no, you're really allowing these kids to prosper and giving them the tools that they need to be great citizens, great family members, friends, and all the above, and great dancers to boot. And just really giving them, you're putting the tools in their tool belt that are really important.
Yeah, that's our goal. Yeah, that's a huge goal, and that's why we have teachers that we do have. Most of our teachers are a lot younger too, and that's something that I feel sometimes has worked against us and worked for us when it comes to just target audiences. But our kids talk to us, and like they can share stuff with us, and I think that's huge, because sometimes it's hard to share stuff with your parents.
Very hard.
And sometimes they just need that extra person to be like, hey, like this is something you need to share with your parents. I'm going to encourage you to do this, and just know that I do get to talk to your parents too. So that's something that they all know, that if they tell us something, their parents are gonna know. And I think that that's something that we've been able to create those relationships with the kids. And we have, as of now, we have 2 female instructors and 1 male instructor. And I think having that diverse group of having younger instructors and having a male instructor involved too has been huge, because we have grown so much with female and male dancers. Like it's unreal. And it's so cool that like everyone can dance now.
Yeah, totally.
Without feeling like, oh, well, that's a girl sport. Because I feel like that's been something that's so cliche of like, you say you're a dancer and everyone's like, oh, you're a ballerina and you're a girl. Like it's very much like that, and it's still,
but it's very much
trying to,
not like
exactly.
that
And so we are in we are in a new world. And I think that it's important for everyone to know that they have a place.
Yeah. I want to commend you, and I also want to encourage everyone listening that you're going to get a lot of no's in life. Like, do you know how many people have told me no, they don't want to be on the podcast?
Right.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't feel good after it necessarily, but it's one of those things that you learn that a no is okay.
Yeah.
And so for kids at an early age to learn that no is okay, that you're going to get no's in life. Like, this is the real world.
Yes.
And you're also going to get yeses. And so just keep doing it.
Exactly.
Just keep doing it. Keep doing the pageants. Keep making that phone call.
Yeah.
Keep trying the dance move.
It's true.
You're going to get it.
It's true. And that's one of the biggest things is we have a saying here where it's, you can, instead of I can't.
Right.
because
that's a bad word.
It really is. It really is. When we hear I can't, we're like, no, you can. Like I've never, no. We're not even going to talk about that. There is no can'ts. You will someday. Like that's something that it's just one of those things where we strive to just make sure that everyone knows that even if you don't get it today, that's the whole point why you're here.
That's it.
Like you're going to get a lot of that in life.
Yeah. It's interesting how your position here at the dance studio is, as I think about it, much more than just being a dance teacher. You're a friend. You're someone who can impart wisdom, and you can be a shoulder for them to cry on. Like, there's just, what an opportunity for you, your mom who helps out the other instructors, to just really pour into the community. As opposed to, you didn't get that dance move wrong or right?
Yeah.
Like you didn't point your toe the right way.
Exactly.
That may have been the case, but how do you go about that and offer that learning opportunity and that this place where they can come and express themselves and know that they're going to walk out of here with a smile on their face?
Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things is we actually have a lot walk out of here screaming and crying because they don't want to leave. And that's like such a goal.
Win, like,
that is such a goal. I'm like, I am so sorry that's happening. Like to the parents, I'm like, I'm so sorry, but this makes me so happy. And that, like, but it's one of those things where I agree, like 100% with what you're saying is that it's not about the pointed toe. At the end of the day, it's about the mental health. It really is. It's about having an outlet. And that's why my social impact is arts in action for Miss Yavapai. Like continuing to instill arts.
Speak to that. And if you need to adjust your headphones, I don't know if they're falling. Don't worry.
I think they're good. Yeah. Oh, hey.
I don't know if they're.
Yeah, we're good.
So,
Thank you.
So speak to that.
Yeah. My social impact is arts in action. And it's actually spelled ARTTS because ARTTS stands for Applying Remarkable Talents to Succeed. And that's something where finding that passion, even if your passion's cooking, that's still an art.
100%.
And so I feel like art's in everything, even when you're picking out your clothes in the morning, whether you like it or not, it's still a very major part of life. And so that's one of my biggest things is just continuing to make that impact and instill that arts is so important in schools. Arts is important in everyday life, even through the quarantining. Like during lockdown, we still did Zoom classes for our dancers. We did dance challenges. So like we did dance challenges for our whole community. So everyone else got involved that was outside of our studio. So that was really cool too. Was the fact that like we had submissions from everyone where we taught a dance online and then everyone submitted it, their own perspective and way of doing it, and then we put them all together.
That's so cool.
And then we did a drive-by flash mob.
Yes.
And so it was really cool. It was just cool to get the community together in a quarantined way, in a lockdown way. So I don't know. It was something that was really cool.
Man.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have we told the people how old you are?
No, we haven't.
Well, tell them.
I am 24 years old.
Yeah, so she's only 24. And I think one of the neatest things is just how much you have learned in your young life. It's great. It's just so much fun to hear. I'm 38, and to hear you talk about your business and your passion and how those have come together is pretty special. You sit here, you live it day in and day out. Sometimes it's hard for you to get perspective. But maybe when you're able to like sound it all out in a short podcast like this, you're like, wow, okay, I've done a lot. I'm doing a lot.
No, I agree 100%. I love doing things like this because I feel like any type of public speaking, any type of podcast, any type of phone conversations, it's a connection.
It is.
And that's the biggest thing is connections in your community and any community connections at all. That's how a business thrives. Like,
period.
Yeah.
Exclamation point.
Exactly. Exactly.
One of my favorite things, aside from just learning about you and your story, is simply then being able to connect people. It's like now you're the 40th person to sit across from me. And so I know of a lot of people who I now we're not like best friends by any stretch, but we're definitely acquaintances at the very least. And they do Or a photographer, and so I hear about someone who needs a photographer.
Exactly.
And it's just connecting is really fun. I really enjoy it, and I think we have a lot of that in the greater Prescott area,
Right.
which is wonderful.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing a podcast like this, because I've learned a lot of things, like just from this podcast, of just
Right.
who people are and why they do things. Like I think what your why is huge. And I think like that's always something I'm constantly asked, just in my pageant organization too, is that like, what's your why?
Yep.
Like, why are you here? Why are you Miss Yavapai? Like, why do you care? Like, what is your why for today?
Yep.
And so like, I think that's just huge.
Yeah. That's I would say that is at the heart of the podcast is I want your story to come out so
Yeah.
that people can understand how your passion is kind of connected to your why.
Exactly.
Why do you do what you do?
Yeah.
And it's fun to go from where were you born and raised, and all of a
Right.
sudden you start to connect the dots, and it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
Now I
I
know
agree.
why she owns Lessons by Lexe and why she's a part of the community and why she does the pageant.
Yeah.
Because I would argue that, there's a stigma to pageants.
is,
and I'm glad
100%.
you actually clarified it for me. I learned a lot sitting across from
Yeah.
my guest.
Yeah.
Where the pageant, it sounds like it's kind of made a shift to being
Yeah.
much more community based, and like how can you help others?
It's true.
Which
Yeah.
is awesome. So
Yeah.
it's just something else people can learn.
I agree.
Anything else about the studio that you didn't say that you'd like to share?
Yeah, we're coming up on our 5-year anniversary. I think that's
Whoa.
big. Just because I had a professor in college, and I hope he listens to this, because him and I went rounds with entrepreneurship. He would always give me like not the best grades on my essays, things like that, where I was told no a lot from him before I was told, you know what, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
And that was huge for me. But he had said to me, when you get to your 2 to 3 year mark, you've known that you've at least opened a business. But when you get to your 4 to 5 year mark, you know you've made it.
Okay.
And that's the start of your business. And so like,
Well said.
I'm coming for you. Like
Yeah.
this June 1st, that is my anniversary, and we will be 5 years, and I will be calling that professor
Yeah.
and saying, hey, guess what? And he's local, so I'm sure he already knows. But it's just one of those things where it stuck with me, because I was like, what do you mean? Like the first year we opened, like I've made it. Like I opened a business. Like that's huge.
Well,
But
you opened a business, yes.
it's not, it made more sense now looking
Of
back
course.
on it, of course,
course.
and being able to go through what I've gone through, having a business. And I think that's another thing, is just encouraging everyone to go for it. But just know there's going to be a lot of like
a lot of no's,
bumps
like
and
said.
bruises on the way. Like that's one of the biggest things, is you can say like, yeah, I opened a business and it was perfect. Like, no, like,
No.
let's be real
Said
here.
no business owner ever.
Right? I know. No successful business owner ever.
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the biggest things, is just making sure that you're aware to just roll with it.
Yeah.
Like you're aware and ready to roll with the punches, because
Yep.
even in the weirdest times like the pandemic right now, like that's something we had to like adjust to.
You're still in that.
Exactly. And we're still, and like, we're still going along with it. Like that's a huge thing, is like we're socially distanced now, and thank God we have a bigger space for that.
Yeah.
Like that's something that obviously that was all in time, that I was supposed to expand when I did, not earlier, not later or anything
Correct.
like that. There was just a right time for that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only thing about the business really, is that we are coming up on 5 years, and we are grateful and blessed for that. And that it's just something that I think the second you walk in here, you just feel like you're home. And so that's the goal.
Then you have done your job.
Yeah.
In that respect.
Yeah.
And that's hard to create.
It
takes
is.
time. It takes
Yeah.
effort. Good
Yeah.
job.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah.
I imagine you don't have a lot of people telling you that.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, just
Yeah.
looking at it from the outside, it's like, congratulations.
Thank you.
I know, I'm sure you have lots of things you want to roll out in the future, and lots of goals and
For
things
sure.
like that.
Yeah.
But after almost 5 years,
Yeah.
great job.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
You said you have not lived anywhere except Prescott and San Jose.
Yeah.
San Jose was a while ago.
Yeah.
What keeps you here?
That's a great question. I think what keeps me here the most is I love that we have all 4 seasons. The weather is amazing. Like every single month you get a little bit of everything. I don't really like the cold too much, but it's not freezing where it's not like unbearable. But it would have to be the fact that like there's still water here too, because the ocean has been huge. Like that was my go-to. Like when I wouldn't nail something in dance and I'd be upset at myself, like we were going to the beach. Like you would go take a walk on the beach, and you would get into that mindset of, no, you can do this. Now go back to the dance studio and handle it. And so I think that being able to still have lakes and things like that, like that's what keeps me here a lot too. And just the community within my studio. I think that's like a huge thing too, is the fact that like I've created a mini community
100%
that has maximized this community. And so I think that that's something that like I never could have imagined any of that happening. Like so I think that that's those
awesome.
are like my main three things, is like just the water, the weather, and the mini community.
Any plans of things you're going to roll out here at the studio in the next, like, so let's just call you about on the 5-year mark. What are some thoughts about the next 5 years? Yeah,
so I think honestly being more in the moment. I think that's one of the biggest things is, as a business owner, you tend to plan. And as anyone, you tend to plan really in life, just so that you know you're ready for everything. But I think one of the biggest things is, with the business being 5 years, it's that breath, being able to breathe, being able to have that stillness and kind of bask in it. Like there's been hard work put in, and the hard work's going to continue, but you can breathe a little bit more with the hard work. And I think that that's something that I'm excited for. And I'm excited to see what happens with the business within the next 5 years too. But of course, there's always new avenues we are working on. Like I just recently got my dance medicine certificate. And that is something that I have always wanted to get since the business opened. So that was something that I was like, well, it's just not time for me to do it yet, just because I can't focus on it. And in order to do something like that, you have to really focus. Like that's not something that just
you're doing it for the reason.
Exactly. Like you need to be able to actually like comprehend what's happening. And so I think that's one of the biggest things, is now I can grow a little bit more and encourage my teachers to get those as well. And dance medicine is like horse therapy in a sense. So like, or dog therapy, when you bring a dog into a hospital and they're helping a patient, it's dance therapy. And understanding how someone's body moves differently. Like the things I learned in that program was so inspiring.
You
and
thought
so,
you knew everything,
yeah,
Lexi.
well, right, totally,
I mean,
totally.
You do think you know a lot, and then
That's
you
exactly,
learn and you go, oh, okay.
Yeah, but like even like one of the biggest things I learned was like kids with braces and kids with glasses. Their equilibrium's gonna be different. And so that's huge, because I never had braces or glasses. And so I had glasses for like a short time, but it wasn't enough to be like I was a kid with glasses and understand, like, because I could take them off and dance still. Instead of my kids who have to wear them while they're dancing so they can see where they're moving.
A little different.
Exactly. And so I think that was major eye-opening for me, was like just taking that certificate program. Like I learned so much more of just about human beings. I think that's a big thing, is like, and what you're going through. When you have a dentist appointment, sometimes that can throw off things. Like they could be nailing a turn one day, have a dentist appointment, and come in the next day and you're like, that turn was perfect yesterday. What happened? But instead of asking what happened or have you practiced, it's saying, I understand. And this is the exercises we're going to work on today in order to help you get back to that. And so I think that's one of the biggest things, is that within this next 5 years, I want to implement a lot more of my dance medicine therapy. That's awesome.
It goes back to this idea of deep generalism. So I can see you have learned a lot along your way. I mean, it's just a wide spectrum of things, and just how important that is, and how you start to see little things from this and that to come in and just you're able to do your work better. At the end of the day, you're able to perform better, and everyone else is a benefit.
Yeah, for sure.
You
Just feels good.
You bring up something really interesting that I think is really hard for, like I said, I'm 38, but I still consider myself young. I have a lot of time to do things. It is, I told you that before we started, I don't know where this podcast is taking me. So if you were to ask me, like, what do you want to be, like, what do you want to be doing in 5 years?
Right.
I've really struggled with that in the past. So I haven't so much fixated on it for this, and I think it feels really nice. Like, I know what I'm doing in the moment, like you said, and I have plans, but I don't know how they're going to work out, and if they are, and some kind of, in a sense, rolling with the punches in an educated way. I'm not you don't put a blindfold over my face. But it is just a nice place to be. I don't know what 5 years is going to look like, but I do know I'm going to have learned and grown, and we'll see what happens, and I kind of sense that
100%.
And clearly you have a great foundation, so the next 5 years is, one would think,
and another thing is if you plan so much, I've done that before to myself.
Me too.
You can only plan so much, and if you plan it to the T, you at the end of the day are going to be very disappointed in what you got, just because nothing's ever going to go as planned, and we both learned that this morning. So that was just one of those things where it's just, you have to just take a deep breath and go with it. It's just, focusing on what you can control in the moment is so important.
And sometimes you gotta fail a number of times before
I agree.
You kind of realize, like, I'm glad that you're as young as you are to be where you're at, because now I'm only 38, but I'm still learning these same sort of things, and it's like it's a very similar path for most people. You get a lot of no's, you mess up a lot, and then things start to work. But you just got to keep doing it.
And I think accepting the no's is the hardest part, but it's the most growth. And understanding that there was a no for a reason. And that's with anything, because even like when we have auditions for something, like we just did the Nutcracker.
Oh, cool.
Accepting a no, but you wanted Clara, is so much growth. Because not everyone can be Clara. So it's always hard. It's hard. And it is hard seeing, like, your dance students, sometimes they're like, oh, well, bummer. Like, that really sucks. But that's one of the biggest things that we're instilling in them is there's something bigger coming.
I know.
There is always something bigger coming. And it's hard at that age to understand that. Because I went through that. And I still am going through that. That's another thing.
And that never changes.
Exactly.
Frankly.
That's another thing is, like, it's so funny because so many of my kids, like my students, are like, well, Miss Lexe, you've never had that happen to you. And I'm like, oh, honey, the only reason I'm here right now and the way I am right now is because it happened to me. And they're like, funny? Oh, that makes sense now. Like, okay, so you got through it too. And I think that's a big thing too, is like, another thing I just recently got to was certified in bullying awareness. And I think that's something that there's a lack of in schools.
Of course.
And because everyone has their own opinion on what it is and what's going on and who's being bullied and things like that. People will say, like, oh, no, you're just sensitive, or oh no, maybe they are. Like, there's just so many like contradictions that even the kids don't even know what that means. Like, what bullying is.
Levels of it. It looks so different.
Exactly. And like, it looks different in movies versus real life.
What a shocker.
And and so I think that's another thing, is like just being able to talk your kids through things and your students through things of like, so this is what's happening, or hey, what's happening at school? Like, why are we walking in with this attitude right now? Or what's going on? So being able to openly talk and like know that if your teacher tells you no, it's because there's a reason. Like, it's not, they don't not like
Doesn't
you.
mean
They
you're
don't,
a bad person.
Exactly. They're like, they just said no because maybe next time it's a yes. And there's something bigger. And so that's always my biggest go-to with them, is that there's something bigger. There is. There's a reason you got to know. Like, there's something there.
There is.
So
the fact fact that you stepped up to the plate and you gotta know is a big deal. And it just, I think it highlights what a neat platform you have to be able to influence a lot of, especially kids, in so many ways. Like, you wear a lot of hats. And it's pretty cool.
It's super fun for sure. That was one of the biggest things is we're a dance studio, but we want to make sure that we're a little more than that.
Right.
And not like aggressively more than that, but enough to at least let people know that there's a place.
Right. And I think when people listen to this, they'll understand that why. Yes, we're absolutely, Lessons by Lexe is a dance studio. However, it encompasses so much more.
Right. There's a lot of components.
And as a parent, it's like, yes, like I want that. I almost want those other things more for my kids. So if it means they got to dance, well then get them in there.
Exactly. Well, and that was another thing is it's awesome to see that our community notices it sometimes. Like for 9/11, we do take moments of silence in every one of our classes. Like that's just something that just because you did it at school, like doesn't mean you come in a dance and we just work on your dance routines. It's still 9/11 that day. Like I think that that's something that's very important is to like understand that we care too. Like it's not just you go to school and learn certain things and you go to dance and learn certain things. Like we're all matching in the community. And it was cool because a parent did come up to us and say, hey, I do appreciate you doing this because it connects to school now. There's a reason that like now there's like a full connection of her day. It wasn't like, oh, 9/11's over, I'm out of school. You know what I mean? So just little things like that. We want to make sure that we're still,
you and I talked about little things before. Like just the little things add up to a lot.
It's true.
In a good way. All right. We're about to wrap it up.
Cool.
I'm going to ask you the rapid fire questions.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, and you can answer with more than one thing because everyone has a problem answering just one sometimes.
It's so hard. Yeah, okay.
Number one, what's your favorite thing about Greater Prescott?
I would have to say the outdoors.
What's your favorite restaurant in Greater Prescott?
Ooh, I really like Dinner Bell. Yeah, I think it's got to be Dinner Bell. Yeah.
What's the number one thing on your Greater Prescott bucket list?
Ooh. I think actually exploring our lakes more. Like walking around them more. Hiking around them more. And just getting more in tune with them, I think. I think that's... Because I've walked around them before, but we've always been like at a wedding there.
You're kind of there to do something rather
it's like
than
a
just
barbecue
or
just be there. Yeah.
I need to work on that too.
It's okay.
What's your favorite all-time style of dance?
Ooh, right now it's tap.
Do you have a favorite all-time dancer?
Ooh, I really like Misty Copeland because she is someone who, despite all the no's, she pushed herself.
Gymnast?
No, she's actually the first black ballerina in the American Ballet.
Okay.
Misty Copeland.
Right.
Yeah, so she, despite the fact that she was told that, no, you can't be a ballerina. You're not a point ballerina. There's no way. That you don't look like a point ballerina. You don't act like a point ballerina. You cannot be a point ballerina. I think that was huge.
The best.
Yeah.
That sums up what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
You get all these no's. Just keep doing
100%.
it.
Yeah.
What are 3 words to describe living in Greater Prescott?
Arts, inspiration, and support.
We have such an artistic community. It's wild. I would have never guessed that before. I mean, I knew we had lots of galleries, but it goes far beyond that.
It's so
Whether
true.
it's dance or music, just
rodeo,
lots of artistic things.
Like
it's
the
wonderful.
events are so artistic here. Like the parades, the rodeos, everything has a way. Everything has creative. There's some creativity within each part of it.
If you weren't a dance studio owner operator, what would you be doing?
Definitely being a public speaker. I think I've always wanted to do a TED Talk. So I think an inspirational speaker.
I mean, inspiration?
I think
motivation?
I think more of like determination.
Okay. I was going to say like
staying
perseverance.
Motivated. Like I think just more as like an overall continuing, like getting up. Like you've heard that, fall down like 5 times, get up 6 or whatever.
Yep.
And so I think that for sure. And then of course, Miss Arizona would be an absolute dream job to have. So I compete for Miss Arizona in June. So we'll see. Yeah.
Last question.
Yep.
What's your favorite summer activity in Greater Prescott?
Ooh. I really like the fireworks show. Even when it's from the car, like even last year it was really fun. Mm-hmm. But I think 4th of July has got to be one of my favorite holidays. And it's close to my birthday month, so that's probably half of the reason. But I think that everyone just comes together, and it's about independence and freedom. And I think that that's huge just in every aspect of my life.
Yeah. It's a special time
in
this city. Mm-hmm. Actually, I just heard someone say, they gave an example of like, hey, when the 4th of July weekend comes around to Prescott, you can't even get a hotel, but people go to Cottonwood to get a hotel just so that they have a little shorter drive to come experience it. Yep. It's really special.
Yeah.
And the rodeos at that time.
Is.
And
yeah,
the
no, it's really
perfect.
Cool.
It's just,
yeah.
I love our town too.
Yeah, me too.
Look at the camera and tell the people why they should come in here.
So you should come into Lessons by Lexe Dance Studio just to breathe, to take it in. I don't even want to sell you a dance class. I think one of the biggest things is just being able to feel the vibe in here. I think coming to watch a class is huge. I always encourage everyone to come watch classes and just kind of be here. Just know that you're allowed to be wild and untamed by nature, just like lions, and that there's a spot for you if you want it.
Well said.
Thank you.
I love like that. I don't know how long we've been recording, but you just summed it all up.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
I'm excited for people to hear your story.
Me too.
I've enjoyed learning your story.
Thanks.
I will put up all Lexe's information, website,
cool.
social media and stuff. What's the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, so we have a website, lessonsbylexe.com. Okay. And you can actually fill out a form and it'll go straight to our email. Yeah. Or you can go on our Facebook pages, our Instagram pages. They're both Lessons by Lexe Dance Studio. And then to contact us via phone number, it's 928-499-8664.
Perfect. I'll put all that up.
Thank you.
It's been a blast.
Yeah.
Isn't it fun just to get to talk to people?
So true.
And I'm very friendly, even if it's in an empty studio.
Right.
I mean, it's just,
right.
I really enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything
thank you so much.
before we wrap it?
No, just thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I really appreciate it. With a smile, let's close it up. Thanks, Lexe.